2 weeks ago, Energy Minister John Jinapor told Joy News that Car Power was threatening to shut down their plants over unpaid bills.
I received a letter from Car Power. They are threatening to shut the plant in 7 days.
Why?
Unpaid bills that we inherited. We've been trying every way we can to engage them so that they will give us some briefing space. But they simply will not budge.
Now, he says the sector is days away from darkness with only 2 days of fuel left in stock.
Frank with you, Chairman, today as I sit here, this morning my headache is how to get the next parcel of liquid fuel. The fuel we have to take us 2.6 days. We've placed order for fuel, but it has to be paid. We've procured some fuel on credit and working with the Ministry of Finance to pay. But the truth is that the Ministry of Finance also has its limits. And so we'll be going to Cabinet to discuss how we can improve on the sector. And that is why we are pushing for some private sector participation in ECG's operations.
Ghana's energy sector is now on life support. The sector minister, John Jinapor, is projecting that energy sector under recoveries would hit 30 billion cedis by the end of 2025. He says government needs over $1.1 billion to keep the light on, yet the sector rakes up to a 2 billion cedi deficit every month.
ECG is unable to collect all the monies. And so you're having a deficit of about 2 billion cedis every month when it comes to ECG's collections. When you add that deficit and you add the fuel, which is not part of the pass-through, you are looking at over 30 billion. Car Power has just sent us a letter that by 18th, they will shut down the plant because we owe them more than $400 million. IPPs alone, we owe them $1.7 billion.
It gets worse. The World Bank's $500 million guarantee has already been drawn down, with only $50 billion left. The government is now using oil meant for national revenue to pay off energy debts. But the ranking member on Parliament's Energy Committee, George Kwame Abuaji, says some big businesses are to be blamed for defaulting on their power bills, while the country sinks further into debt.
Most of our companies in this country, a lot of them, they don't pay electricity bills. A lot don't pay. And transmission losses also is another factor, which the minister has to look at it. We are currently at around 29 to 30% transmission losses, whereby the OECD or the international sectors, their transmission losses is around 8 to 9%.
With a couple of days of fuel left and no clear financing solution, the sector minister is set to make a last-ditch effort to secure funds from Cabinet to avoid a national power shutdown. The clock is ticking away.
And that's the situation as we have it. We'll be taking you to the board shortly for us to contemplate what exactly is happening in our energy sector. Sweetie?
Yes, so the minister has been speaking, and I think we're just going to set the context for the conversation in a bit. And I want to divide it into 4 categories: the situation, the problem, which the minister calls his headache, and what they're doing about it and what we can do going forward. So first, the situation. The minister says we require about $1.1 billion to procure liquid fuel alone. The liquid fuel is not part of the tariff structure, and so we will be buying close to $15 billion of liquid fuel. Next, Car Power says that by 18th, which is in 2 days, they will shut down the plants because they are owed $400 million, IPPs alone, and we owe them $1.7 billion. Remember, this is what John Jinapor, the sector minister, is saying. So ECG, as we speak, is unable to collect all monies and so have a deficit of about $2 billion, 2 billion Ghana cedis rather, every month. When you add that deficit and you add the fuel, you are looking at over 30 billion Ghana cedis. So that's the situation. So what is his headache? He says the headache is how to get the next parcel of liquid fuel. The fuel we have will take 2.6 days. I keep asking, what is the 0.6 days about? We'll find out when Ben gets into that conversation. So we'll move on. Through the help of the Ministry of Finance, that is what they're doing about it currently as we speak. They've procured 450,000 barrels of light crude oil, and this can stretch us for quite a while, he says. I don't know if the while is the more than 2.6 days that he talks about, but let's go on and see what else they're doing about the situation. He says he's happy to announce that the 3-day ultimatum given by Kapower has been withdrawn. So it looks like Kapower will really not shut down or will not carry out that threat that they issued some time back. And ECG has submitted a technical presentation on how to ensure that we keep the light on when it rains. I'm sure most of us experience power cuts when it pours a little, and they're looking at how they can fix that as well. And he says they are working actively with their counterparts in Nigeria so that instead of spending about $48 million a month on light crude oil, they switch to gas to reduce the cost to just around $20 million. And also, Tallow can increase gas supply by 30 MMSCFD by May ending. So by the end of this month, we should see some improvement in that bit. And in July, ME can also increase their gas by the same amount. And so that's what they're doing about the situation, and that's what it looks like going forward. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, he says. We just have to keep focused and work towards that goal. So that's what the Energy Minister has been saying, John Jinapor. And right now, Ben will take you to our guest, and they will put the situation in perspective. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you, Sweetie Abochi. We have joining the conversation Kojo Poku. He's an energy analyst. We also have Nana Mwesi the seventh. He's an executive director of the Institute for Energy Security. Both of them join the conversation. Gentlemen, good morning. Kojo,
Ben, good morning. How are you?
I am well. Hope you are too.
I'm very well. How's your light situation?
My light situation as of now is okay. It's interesting you ask that because two people in the studio right before we came on air, one of them was saying, one of our cameramen, he was saying, look, this light thing that we've been talking about, in his neighborhood, and his wife is practically at home all the time, he comes to work, there are no power outages. Someone else was saying same. But me, once in a while, I do get some power outages, though what I've noticed is that sometimes it's anywhere between 5 minutes and maximum 30 minutes, and it's back. What is your power situation? What is your power situation?
No, thank God. I'm happy that people in your studio now can attest that lights are on. I remember some months ago when I come into your studio and I say this, you open the phone lines for people to tell us. So we can do the same today if you don't mind. Let's open the phone lines and let's hear Ghanaians how their light situation is.
We could do that, but that would be at the discretion of my producer. and you are not the producer, so go ahead.
I said, these days when your light goes off, as my sister Sweetie Abochi will say, is doom so. It's no longer doom so. Now,
Okay, all right. I guess those are your initial thoughts. Let me go to Nana Mwesi the seventh, Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ben, and good morning to your listeners or viewers.
It's good to have you join the conversation. Where are we power-wise? The sector minister, Honorable Jinapor, has been talking about the many challenges, and some people are saying enough of the challenges, fix the problem. But where exactly are we in our energy situation?
Ben, it hasn't gotten better. It is the same experiences in 2024 is what Ghanaians are going through in 2025. It is not just power outages, but power fluctuations. And it is understandable. The issues that we have in the sector cannot be dealt with in a matter of a month or a year. We were clear in our mind when we did our projections last year that whoever forms the next government will have to inherit them so, and we'll have to deal with that and contend with that for at least a year and a half before we can have some stability in the power supply, because the issues are quite, multiple and entrenched. We need to deal with the issue of fuel supply, fuel transmission, power generation, power transmission, power distribution, and accounting for the revenue. These are all challenges that we must deal or probably resolve before we have any stability in our power supply.
All right. Nana Nwesi, you made mention of the fact that for you, the watchers of the energy space, you knew that whoever took over would face some of these problems. But if you look at how we have attempted dealing with the problems, do you have confidence that we'll be able to meet certain metrics and by a year's time, a year and a half's time, be in a better place?
Okay, so Ben, we struggle to pay for our fuel. We struggle to pay the transmitter of this fuel, WAPCO. We struggle to sometimes get all the power plants available for production or power generation. And a typical one is car power issue that we're talking about. And we have issues with transmission and distribution, as I said. This all boils down to liquidity. If we have cash flow that is not constrained, then of course we can resolve all these issues. So the first approach is to deal with the issues downstream at the end of the value chain, being PG and its inability to collect revenue. And so that's why we heavily supported the private sector participation in PG, because they are proven to be inefficient and incapable of solving the issue. And so if we can work on the private sector participation as quickly as possible, then we are going to resolve that liquidity challenge to be able to resolve issues upstream. And so the approach is to start from ECG, the distribution angle.
The approach is to part from what? I'm losing you briefly.
The approach is to start from the tackling the inefficiencies and the problems in the ECG, the major distributor. You will recount that mid-last year, PRC did indicate to us clearly that in some months, the ECG is unable to collect even 50% of the expected revenue,
right,
and they don't comply with the cash waterfall mechanism. If we're able to solve that issue by way of private sector participation, I'm sure it will be a good start to deal with the issues upstream.
Right. Now, in dealing with these issues, right before I go to Kojopoku, in dealing with these issues, you are talking of a $400 million debt to car power alone. We're talking about $1.7 billion in that situation. Then you are talking about ECG's revenue losses month on month. You are looking at about 2 billion Ghana cedis. It's still that same situation. In respect of that, there have been some attempts of dealing with the revenue leakages. The minister has been talking about MMDAs having to be made to fall in compliance and all of that. Are you happy with how things are going in that regard?
Well, it means that the minister has concerned himself with what I just mentioned, the distribution angle and the revenue collection. Very key. If we don't do that, we start dealing with, let's add additional gas processing plants. Let's dispatch this plant, let's not dispatch this. It won't solve the issue. So I think the minister started very well, but it must move forward to go to the bigger fruits. These are the low-hanging ones, asking the MMDC to pay their bills and all that. The major one is to ensure that ECG collects all the bills and ensure that the cash waterfall mechanism is being adhered to. Very critical.
All right, the CWM. Hold for me, Nana Nwesi. Let me bring in Kojopoku. So as you've heard Nana Nwesi VII say, he thinks the sector minister is doing very well so far. He speaks about the inefficiencies within ECG, revenue losses, and those areas that must be tackled. Which are areas that the sector minister is looking at? What do you see? What are the problems, if any, that are not being addressed?
Look, Ben, good morning, and good morning to Mrs. Abuchi. Look, all these things that the minister is repeating today is nothing new. Ben, you can go back and play our tape from last year, and we have repeated these things over and over. The energy sector indebtedness, the numbers the minister is talking about, the debt to car power, everything in this sector the minister is talking about is not new. Look, yesterday he met the subcommittee in Parliament, and he was giving them the situation report. He's giving them some more like an account of the sector and whatever he intends to do to the subcommittee. What is missing is what he has done in the last 4 months. Look, we know that there is a shortfall in ECG's revenue. What have John Jinapor done in the last 4 months to improve that? What did you meet? What have you done to improve it? Because Honorable Jinapor was one of the few people that me and him have been on various platforms, and he had a lot of solutions that when given the nod, he will implement within the 120 days. What is the 120 days for Honorable John Jinapor in his sector? What are the achievements? Because look, when you say that we only have 3 days of fuel left in 7th of January, and everybody is scared, and then 4 months down the line, you come and repeat the same thing that we only have 3 days fuel left. When you said it in 7th January, we'll blame the Nanado government. But when you say it in May, who do we blame?
All right, so hold for me briefly. So what you're saying basically is that between January the 7th, when this administration took over, I mean, he would have been acting. He wasn't a substantive minister then. Till now, you see nothing that he has done in this regard, this specific regard.
He has not told us. It's not me for me to see. He has not told us. He had the opportunity when he met the committee in Parliament to tell them what he has done. What we are reporting, what me and you are discussing, are the same problems that we know in the sector in last year. And I mean, all these indebtedness and all these shortfalls in ECG, we know. It's nothing new.
Okay, so
what have you done in the last 120 days? That's what we were expecting from Honorable Jinapor when he met the subcommittee. So the point I'm making is this. Hold on. The issue of trying to go to Nigeria to get more fuel, he knew that in January. The issue of 30 scarf more from Talo, if you listen to his vetting, he mentioned it. Okay, so he mentioned in his vetting that Talo is prepared to give us 30 scarf more of fuel. In the last 120 days, what has happened? In the last 4 months, why haven't you gotten the 30 scarf from Talo? If you knew that in January, why are we still repeating that in May? So those are the issues for me.
Just hold for me. I'll come right back to you. Let me pan over to Nana Mwesi the 7th. For you, just so I can get your quick reaction. In these 120 days, on some of these metrics or matrices, have you seen any action at all from the sector minister? Just briefly.
Well, Benjamin, what I found when the minister took office was that he had to deal with emergency cargoes. And that means that because he didn't know that WAPCO was going to shut down their line for maintenance, for which reason some liquid fuels will have to be made available. Quickly, he had to arrange for some liquid fuels as a backup. And it came under emergency situation. Any emergency cargo comes at a higher cost. It came late, and we'll have to prepare for the power plant to work. In all that, within that period, we were incurring additional debt. This is what I know. And when the matter or the issue was fixed with WAPCO's line, he may have assumed that we have comfort and that there won't be any issues like car power threatening to shut down their plant, and for other facilities upstream that's producing natural gas having some form of setback as well. This is what I know. But at least he is working to fix the issues, but he must do better.
You say he's working. You say he's working to fix the issues. Nana Mwesi, you say he's working to fix the issues, right? What then have you seen that point to this? Because Kojo Poku is saying he sees nothing, and nothing has changed between the 7th of January when this administration took over and now. That's why I'm trying to find out briefly from you. What have you seen that can be testament to the fact that something is being done?
Then I've been forthright with you that to deal with the issues, first tackle the distribution angle where there are revenue leakages and ensure that you can get ECG adhering to the cash water for mechanism dictated. and introduce private sector participation. And this is what he's been able to do. Started the process of putting together a team and looking at different models of private sector participation to ensure that we block those issues. Just one particular thing I found that is done well with to start with.
All right. Let me come back to you, Kojo Poku. You started enumerating why you feel nothing is being done. Put yourself in the shoes of the energy minister. Let's assume Kojo Poku is energy minister today. What would you do?
Okay, so clearly, let me tell you one thing, and let me correct this. I'm not saying that nothing is being done. I'm saying that he had the opportunity to tell us what he's done in the last 4 months, and he did not tell us what he's done. He only enumerated or only told us the problems that exist. So we've not heard from him what he's done. But let me, to your point, the first point of action in the energy sector, the power sector, is to fix the leakages at ECG. The issue of last mile, where we all agreed with him in our manifesto as MPP and their manifesto as NDC, we all said that we're going to do the retail. I honestly did not think that there was a need to have a committee to come back to tell us that. And now I'm told that Cabinet has approved the retail and the last mile. That should have been the committee that he put in place in January should have been an implementation committee, not a fact-finding committee. So that was something I would have done. I would have put in place an implementation committee because we run on the manifesto of retail and last mile. And if MPP had come into power, what we would do is to put in place an implementation committee. By now, 4 months down the line, we'd have moved past now trying to find a transaction advisor and all these things because they are yet to start that. That is basically 4 months wasted down the line. Secondly, if you look at these issues of indebtedness, every power company who is an IPP is owed because we've heard this from Eliclem and his team over and over. What meeting has been conveyed? What payment structure has been put in place with these IPPs? I, by now, would have put that payment structure in place, have a comprehensive meeting with these IPPs, and basically agreed on a payment structure, including WAPCO, including all the people who are owed in the value chain. So they know that their problem is being dealt with. You will not have Car Power coming 3 months down the line to threaten you with 400 million if you've met him 3 months down the line to agree a payment structure.
But Kojo and Nanamwesi, correct me. Kojo and Nanamwesi, correct me if I am wrong, but if memory serves, there was some engagement, if not at the energy sector confab, there was some engagement with the IPPs. Am I mistaken?
Well, I don't know. What I'm saying is that if there was, why are you being threatened for shutdown? What I know is that
but the debts still remain. The debts we've carried on still remain. So they want their money.
But my point is that, Ben, they all don't want their money. Nobody in the sector wants all their money. They want an assurance and a payment plan that the money will be paid. If everybody pays their debts, banks will go broke. Banks don't want you to pay their money. Banks want you to give them a payment plan on when you pay their money. And the money paid within the payment plan you give them. The IPPs are happy to take a payment plan. They don't want all their money. They know you can't give them all their money today.
Nanawesi, how do you put up that payment plan when especially your economy is what it is and you inherit the kind of debt you have inherited? And in any case, I'm sure both of you gentlemen remember that American senator who was pushing that the IMF, and you know the stake that the US has in that, in terms of making the next tranche of payments to Ghana, would actually subtract what is owed to some of the American independent power producers. What is your reaction?
Well, then what I can attest to is that there's been some engagement with the Chamber of IPP and also engagement with individual, producers as well. And like I just said, there's no enough money to pay, and so you can only ask them for time and give them some relief, some form of payment, and then ask them to give you a little time to deal with the major issues. That has been done, and it's true. Priority is being given to some IPP. If the American, payments come through, that's what I also understand, that it will be done. But as to the confirmation of same, we've not received a firm confirmation from the ministry. We've asked them to update us on these issues, and we are waiting for a response. But some engagement has been done.
In terms of the cash waterfall mechanism, to both of you gentlemen, how sick is the system? The mechanism that was supposed to ensure equitable distribution, depending on how much power is being generated, produced, has not really worked well. It's also on the back of the ECG's problems. How sick is it? What are your expectations in that regard? I'll start with you, Nana Mwesi, and same question for you, Kojo Poku.
Of course, it's significant to the extent that if we don't have all the cash coming to one vote and ensure that we pay them according to the dictates of the mechanism, then of course some people will struggle, others will benefit, and some will not have anything at all. It is to ensure, as you said, a fair and equitable distribution. But I also see that it is skewed to a large extent towards the IPPs and the public utilities, which must be addressed in the long term, so that all of them have some form of relief and ensure that they also play their role, to expectation.
Kojo?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the cash waterfall mechanism. It's only a mechanism that distributes what comes into it. That is why I was expecting the minister to give us an idea of how much money since January that he took office, the measures he's put in place, how has that affected the revenue for ECG? Because he came in and gave a directive that there should be a single account, the single collection account. ECG had multiple collection accounts. The minister gave a directive that, look, there should be a single collection account so that all money comes into one pot. Everybody can see what is coming in. And ECG is only being given a certain amount of money to operate with, not necessarily dipping their hands into it. How has that improved the money going into the cash waterfall? So those are the numbers that we are looking for. As industry watchers, we need the minister to feed us with information. And that is the only way we can judge achievement and performance. So the cash waterfall, there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing we need to do is make sure that ECG's efficiency reflects in the money going into the cash waterfall. And when that happens, as Nana Mwesi said, there is a certain level of bias. Yes, there is tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 are the IPPs, and Tier 2 are the state-owned enterprises. So obviously, the IPPs in Tier 1 are paid first. It's until 6 months ago that WACO was moved into Tier 1 because of the nature of their business, basically bringing us gas. So the nature of the cash waterfall, there's nothing wrong with it. It is the inefficiency of ECG that was affecting the money that comes into the cash waterfall mechanism. So now that we are told,
well, that's actually the problem I was talking about. A mechanism is supposed to function. If it's not functioning to distribute as it's meant to, that was what I meant by problem.
Ben, what I'm saying is that you can only divide 10 among certain people as compared to dividing 50 among certain people. So right. The cash waterfall mechanism is there. The committee sits, look at what was in the pot and divide it. So if the inefficiency at ECG is addressed and more money is put into the cash waterfall, it will be basically distributed well. Bear in mind, the committee has changed because of the change of government. So now the chairman of the committee is changed. The members of the committee has changed. So we assume that it should basically work better if everybody says that it wasn't working before. So that is my concern. My concern is that why are we still having IPPs threatened to shut down if in the last 4 months there has been improvement?
Just to follow up on that, do you expect that within this 4-month period, looking at the debt stock that we have in respect of the IPPs, just pick the IPPs alone, in 4 months we would have been able to regularize all of our payments, restructure them, especially as we have failed a number of times to pay them? That would have been able to get everything in order to ensure a seamless situation after just 4 months.
Yeah, like I have had, look, Ben, in the last 2-3 years, I've had lots of conversation with people in that space. They don't want all their money. What they are upset with is emails that don't get replied, phone calls that don't get picked. You have a finance minister who refused to pick calls of IPPs. Now, let me give you an example.
Wait. Just hold for me. Are you talking of the current finance minister?
Oh, no, previous finance ministers.
Okay.
I don't know about the current one, but previous finance minister refused to pick phone calls of IPPs.
Okay.
And that's a fact. You have ENI, Vitor, the CFO of Vitor will come into town trying to meet the finance minister and it doesn't get a meeting with him. And meanwhile, you owe Vitor, ENI maybe $400 million. That is the problem why these guys will shut down the plant. The reason people shut down is not because you owe them. The reason people shut down is because you are refusing to engage them on the indebtedness. If you engage people on money you owe them, they will never collect all their money because banks want you to owe. That is the problem. So what I'm saying is that if John Jinapor is saying us that Car Power is threatening to shut down, it's because he's not engaged them. That's why they are threatening to shut down.
All right. Some issues, I mean, I'm taking your final thoughts now, but I just want you to zone in on these matters as well. The sector minister also talks about the fact that MMDAs will have to meet the requirements of paying their bills. He talks about the Ghana Water Company Limited, which he says hasn't even paid one Ghana cedi to the ECG in the last 7 months, among others. What would be your general reactions to these, calling on MDAs or MMDAs to pay their bills, and then your final thoughts? Please make it brief.
Okay, it's absurd that Ghana Water is not paying their ECG bills. They are paying money to Dubois for internet. That's what I read. I don't know if that's true, but if that's the case, then it's very absurd that you are not paying your energy bills, but you are paying your internet bills. Look, let's be honest with ourselves. The issue of calling for MMDAs to be metered, prepaid, not postpaid, smart prepaid meters. We've been calling for this for over and over and over. Look, we have a tape of President John Mahama when he was president in the first term, issued a statement that all MMDAs should be metered with smart paid meters. What, 12 years down the line, we are still back talking about MMDAs not paying their bills. What is stopping ECG metering all MDAs, ministry, department, and agencies, except the critical ones, okay? We have critical ones that have already been lined out. So we have the hospitals and all these institutions that for some reason they can be given prepaid meters. Let's agree to that. But the police barracks, the military barracks, the ministry, department, and agencies that sit there, why can't they have prepaid? Why can't all the ministries have prepaid? So why are we back to this conversation? Is the political will that is not there to fix this problem? I find it very strange that in the last 8 years, nothing was done, and we are back to that conversation again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. We were trying to get Nana Amwesi VII to get back with us and share his final thoughts, but it appears that may not be possible right now. But Kojo, we're grateful for your time. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. We also had Nana Amwesi VII, Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security, joining the conversation. Stick and stay. We have a bit more coming your way in just a bit. Do stay.